Good morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our very first webinar. We're just going to wait here a little bit, see if anyone is late to joining. I know there's a little bit of a delay with YouTube. If you have any difficulties hearing me, just let me know. I am outside. I did do a test recording to make sure that all the noises of the birds and the planes and the construction that's going on across the street doesn't show up, but it still might. So, all right. So let's get to it. First, before I talk about the app and all that, I did want to say that we have a new podcast. Rolling out new podcast here. Here's the promo for the podcast. It's me, it's Aaron, it's Mylan, the three of us, just chatting about our gardens and uh, little topics like that. So this week we talked about fall gardening, and next week, or actually it's going to be more like a monthly podcast. But next time we're going to be talking about who knows what. We'll figure out some topic. So if you have a topic to talk about or a question for us, definitely ask us. You can shoot us an email at question@planter.garden. And yeah, so if you have any questions for me, please let me know in the comments. Until then, I'm just going to go over some basic features of the app. Let me get the right thing up there. All right, so this is my app. This is my personal garden here. I've got a community garden, I've got a green stalk. Um, we don't officially support the green stalk yet, but I'll show you how I arranged it. So I have a blank layer in between each row. So this is right here at the top where you can see my taps. That's the top layer of the green stalk, and then the second to the top, and then it goes on down from that. So that's one way you can add a green stalk garden into Planter. But yeah, just for anyone that's new to the app, let's just go about creating a new garden. You can just tap this new garden button, give it a name. You select the length and the width. It's preset to 4x8 because that's a very common raised bed dimension. All right, and then you want to tap this Add Plants button, and you'll see here in my app, I'm the developer of the app. I do a lot of testing, so there's a bunch of junk plants at the top, where we just added, or in the process of adding pH recommendations for if you want an acidic pH soil or a basic pH. So we're adding that. Keep an eye out soon. But then, yeah, if you want to plant out your garden, let's say you want to plant some onions. What I just did, I just tapped the quick plant mode. It's up here at the top. I'll tap it a few more times. And that just lets you plant a bunch of things very quickly without having to drag and drop over and over and over again. So here I'm going to plant some onions, and I want to plant some Walla Walla sweet onions. I just harvested a bunch of these from my garden. They're delicious. They're very easy to grow. They grow really big. I am in Connecticut, so I have to grow long day onions. If you're in the South, you may need to grow short day onions. And then if you're somewhere in between, intermediate onions. So here I'm just tapping everywhere I want to plant those onions. And there you go. That's how you plant them. Let's say I want to plant another variety of onions right next to it. I can tap there. I'm also growing this year the Red Mountain onion. So I'll just plant a row of those next to that. And let's choose something else to plant. Um, this is actually a bad example because we're coming into fall, so um, not a good time for me to be planting onions. So actually, let me delete all these things. If you hold and long press, you can enter this multi-select mode, and then you can tap this button that looks like a compost pile up here at the top, and that gets rid of all the plants that you got in the garden. So let's plan more of a fall garden. So this spring I planted a lot of bok choy. I really liked it. So I'm gonna plant uh, a bunch of bok choy. It's just great in salads. It's You can stir fry it also, but I was eating it just plain old fresh. Um, Other things I did plant. I purchased some carrots. I ran out of the cosmic purple variety. I just got some regular Danvers, so I can choose a variety. Danvers 126. That's it. So then, what I just did, I clicked choose variety, and then you get into the variety screen. And then if you want to choose it, you could just search because there's a lot of varieties, and then you tap this little button here, and that makes that the new default. And if you really like that variety, you might as well favorite it, or this button here lets you add it to your seed box. So if we click that, you can say, okay, I've got this in my seed box, and then we can go over that in the future. But this is a quick way, as you're adding plants, go ahead, add them to your seed box. Later on, you can keep track of all the seed packets that you have. If you're like me, your actual physical seed box is a complete mess. So this is a good way when you're at the store trying to buy more new seeds, um, to look up what you got so you don't buy another packet if you already have one from last season. Um, so I'll click save. All right, so now I'll go back. So now the Danvers 126 right here, you can see that's selected. So now I can plant a row of those. Um, and actually, I like carrots. I'm gonna say 2 rows of that. All right. And then for the last row, gonna plant some radishes. And as you see, like I'm not selecting a variety for everything. You don't need to. It's completely optional. You can use this app. Um, you can make it really customized for your use case, or you can just use the basic features. And if you know in your head, okay, that radish is like a globe radish, great. Maybe you only have one variety of radish seeds, so why bother? And then here, sugar snap peas are another good variety to plant in the fall. And as you can see here, if I just zoom in a little bit, those green circles indicate that those two plants are compatible with each other. Um, if you had something that was not compatible, you might get a red circle. So, um, luckily, we don't have any instances of that happening right here. Um, Now, sugar snap peas require a trellis to climb up, and if you have planter premium, you can add that. One easy way to do that, you can hold and long press, but that's a little tricky when you already have plants there. So then I recommend pushing this multi select mode button up at the toolbar, and then you can click the squares where your trellis will be, and then tap the art paint palette icon, and that lets you add backgrounds and foregrounds. And there's a lot of backgrounds. I just usually keep it as soil, but if you want to, if you've got a special bed that's maybe like a keyhole shape, you can put some grass or mulch in the keyhole, um, to indicate that, it's not dirt there. You don't want to plant there. So here, trellis. We're going to select trellis. And right now it's in the correct orientation. It's vertical, up and down, which is the way that our peas are. If you wanted to do it horizontally, just tap this rotate button, and that makes the trellis horizontal. But we're going to go back to vertical, click OK, and boom, there we go, trellis. All right. So that's the basic features of using the app. Let's go into a little bit more unique features. So let's say, okay, these carrots, 16 carrots in a square. Let's say if maybe you, oh, actually, that's pretty good. But let's say the bok choy, perhaps you want to plant that more dense than 2 bok choy in a square. In that case, you can actually tap on it, tap info, and down here where it says spacing, you can tap on that, and you can customize the spacing to whatever you want. A lot of people do this with tomatoes. In the default, we have tomatoes taking up 4 squares. If you are very good at pruning your tomatoes and you trellis them up, you can usually plant them at like 1 per square foot. People have varying preferences about that. So just do whatever works for you, and you can change that. So here, I'm going to change it to 8. Actually, yeah, we'll change it to 9 per square. I'm going to be harvesting these when they're really baby bok choy. I don't really care if they get super big. At this point, I want to plant them 9 in a square foot, and that way they'll hopefully smother out any other weeds that may be growing in between them. So I'll just click OK. All right. So now if I go back, it says 9 times for all those. Okay. And you can customize this. I just customize it for the bok choy plant. If you have a specific variety, so like, let's go back to this sugar snap peas over here, because that's a specific variety. You can expand the variety card, and next to spacing, you can customize the spacing just for that specific variety. So this is very useful if you've got, again, tomatoes. Some varieties are much more dense growing. I can think of some that take up a lot more space. So you might want to adjust it for certain varieties. Sunflowers also, there's the giant mammoth sunflowers. And then there's the tiny little baby sunflowers that are good for cut flowers. So you might want to customize it. So you can customize it however you like, per variety, per plant. So yeah. And then moving on to another feature we have here, notes and events. This is really good to keep track of when you planted something, and a lot of other things. But like, let's just say we're gonna sow. Let's say you create this plan, and then you go out to the garden, and while you're at the garden, you whip out your phone and you open up the plan, and then after you sow it, you could say, okay, I sowed this outside. You don't need to fill in any of these other things, but it puts in the date that you sowed it, which is great because then you know 2 weeks from now, those pea seeds, they should have sprouted by then. If not, maybe it's time to buy a new packet of seeds. Maybe those are duds, and try sowing again. So we'll just click save. So now we have a record of when we sowed those seeds. You can also do some other things. Let's see, like you can remove a plant. You can keep track of when you water, fertilize. Fertilizing is a big one because you don't want to over fertilize, under fertilize. I know I always forget when the last time I fertilized. So yeah, this is just a good way to keep track of all the things that you do within the app. And then a good way to get to your notes, if you don't want to scroll down there, you can also tap it up there. That's when you sowed it. You can always edit it. You can change the date to a previous date. Um, Very customizable. All right. So let's say in this view, um, there's a few other things that we can actually look at. So just going over the quick info, the depth, how deep to plant those seeds, um, sun, how much sunlight it requires. If you tap any of these cards, it will bring up a little bit more info. This one obviously just kind of says full sun. Um, Sprout to harvest. It can take anywhere from 55 to 85 days, according to this, depending on um, essentially the variety that you're growing and your weather conditions. And germination, like how long it takes between when you plant the seed for it to actually come up. And when we have your growing calendar here, I just did a fresh install. So let me set my weather station. All right. Okay, so that's good. So now I just set my weather station with my frost dates, and it automatically calculates the nearest weather station that has frost data. It might not always be the closest weather station to you, but not all of them have um, frost data, and this just looks for the ones with the frost data. So it tells me I've got 59 growing days left until my fall frost date. So time's counting. I actually already went to the garden, planted my fall seeds. I might plant a few more, but it's getting really close. So, all right. So here it shows me the growing calendar, when you should sow outside. Some of these are marked as not applicable. Start inside, transplant. Typically, people don't um, start their peas inside. That's just because they're so easy to plant outside. However, if you want to plant them inside, usually you can. I do that with cucumbers and squash because I garden at a community garden, and the pest pressure there is just so great that I start them inside, bring them out there once they're a decent size. I cover them up immediately with an insect netting, and that keeps all the squash bugs and other pests that are on my community garden neighbors' squash plants. It keeps them from hopping right over and eating up my squash and cucumber seedlings right away. So, if you don't always have to abide by what's in the app. If you need to start something inside or transplant, yeah, do what works for you. Another thing here is the begin harvest date. So that's a new thing that we added recently, and all that does is it takes the date that you can first plant it outside, adds the germination date, adds the sprout to harvest date, and if any of those are ranges, you'll see that the begin harvest date is also a range. So if you planted sugar snap peas as early as you possibly could, this tells you that you can expect to start harvesting. At least me, I could begin to start harvesting the first day of June, um, which is actually pretty accurate. That's around when I started harvesting. Um, so moving on, we've got all the varieties, and this is just a preview. So if you want to see all of them, tap the View All Varieties, and then there's a whole bunch. Currently, we have burpee varieties in here. We're working on adding other varieties. It's just a lot of work to get all the varieties from other seed companies in the app. And we've been trying to work directly with them. It just has not worked out yet because they are so busy around the time when we are trying to add new varieties because they're busy shipping out all those seed packets. So moving on down, we have companion plants, combative plants. I see we have some new viewers in the audience. So if you have a question for me about using the planter app, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer it. Yeah, so companion and combative plants, you can expand this and you can see all the plants that it might help out. So here it says spinach, and it adds nutrients. And their little arrows indicate which plant is helping. So here, peas add nutrients that help spinach grow. So it says peas add nitrogen to the soil. And you might have heard that term before, that peas and beans are nitrogen fixers. So that's what that's talking about. And we've got, um, we recently went through and looked for which one of these relationships had scientific sources or academic sources backing it up, and which ones were just internet sources without much actual research behind it. And we pruned back a lot of these relationships in favor of the ones that had scientific backup. So uh, if you've if you're saying, "Hey, I thought that this and this were compatible because of XYZ," that might be the reason why we don't have it in the app right now, is because we couldn't find any good source for it. Um, Combative plants here, which things you shouldn't plant it next to. It looks like don't plant it next to any alliums, onions. Um, Shazams is a test plant. Ignore that, please. I just, this is my account that I use when I test stuff. So I created a dummy plant there. One of the new features we have, nutrition, um, tells you what vitamins and nutrients this plant has. So if you're into that sort of thing, if you're looking for something with a specific vitamin, let's say you need more vitamin C in your diet, um, you can tap on that and see which plants give you that. And it looks like I need to optimize this view. It's just a horizontal scroller. It should probably be a little bit better looking, but uh, always more things to add to the to-do list. Pests, diseases, beneficial critters, and then here's just some general information about growing it. And then we have related articles. So we have this thing called the Growing Guide, and it's basically a blog. And this is where we have a lot of information that can't fit within the app. We'll put it on the blog, and then you can read about it. So, growing vegetables in part shade. Here's a good article. I think this showed up because vegetable plants to grow in part shade. If we scroll down, peas, there you go. So, you might be able to grow peas in part shade. Who knew? Yeah, so that's basically it for the plant details view. I'm going to go over to the calendar view and ignore all the test plants I've got. This is just a good way, especially early in the season when it's winter time and you're wondering, okay, what can I plant? What's the first thing? You can filter it if you tap the filter icon to what you can transplant. Ooh, Green Thumb Gardener. Here, let me post this. Green Thumb Gardener says, "Hello, have you added the green stalk layout yet?" No, we are working on it. I just showcased that at the beginning of the stream. This is how I add my green stalk in the app. Basically, I add a blank row and I gray it out with the custom background in between each layer, and that way you can still see what is compatible with each other within each layer, and then not have any combative indicators between layers because their roots aren't going to be touching. So this is how I do it. I hope that helps. But we are working on, or I am working on developing a big rewrite of the app that'll be much more flexible and hopefully allow for custom shaped gardens and unique things such as the green stalk and also like round garden beds, things that don't currently work with our square layout right now. Good question. Thank you. All right. So going back to the calendar, what I use it for mostly is what can I do right now? So I'm gonna click sew outside right now, and you can see all the things that you can sew outside right now, um, which is a lot of things because it's August. It's a good time, but we are reaching the end of the sew point because this is calculated based on all these ranges. For instance, this cucumber range here, we're at the very end of it because right now, if you plant cucumbers, your fall, my fall harvest, my fall frost date might show up before any cucumbers actually ripen on the vine. So I did just plant some cucumbers on actually yesterday, um, but I had started them inside 3 weeks ago. So I do expect to get a second batch of cucumbers. I'm going to harvest them a little small, good for pickling. So yeah, that's my second batch of cucumbers, just because the first batch was uh, ruined by all those cucumber beetles and squash bugs. So and diseases. All right, and moving on. Here's the growing guide that I mentioned before, and we're gonna go into the seed box, which is the cool new feature that we added this season. This is just a good way to keep track of all the seeds that you have. So here I've got all the seeds that I've got in my seed box, and I've got them virtually here. And you can see here, for instance, the Aristotle X3R hybrid sweet bell pepper. It shows a icon indicating that the seed packet is empty. Whereas the hot salsa blend has a few seeds left. The sweet peas full, and also I saved a whole bunch of sweet sugar snap peas from last year, and I will never run out there. I saved a lot. So this is a great way to keep track of all the seeds that you have. And then if you tap on them, you'll get this cool little thing that looks like a seed packet. And you can create notes on each seed packet. So this is a note that I added, and if you want to edit your seed packet, you can click that open here button and edit your note. And yeah, it's just a good way to keep organized. All right. Um, okay. Thank you for the questions. Will you be able to scan a seed packet? I have looked into that. Unfortunately, the barcode on the back of seed packets is just a number and doesn't really provide much useful information. However, with machine learning and AI, nowadays it might be more and more possible to point your camera at it and be able to decipher what's the name of the variety and versus what's the name of the seed company. There's just a lot of technical limitations that make it tricky, but it might be coming. I can't promise it for next year, but it's on my radar as I look at all these um, new AI features that tech companies are rolling out, and trying to think of how to use that to make this feature possible. And so here we also have diseases, pests, beneficial critters. So you can just tap on any of those to view a whole list of them. And now I'm going to go into the settings page. All right, so we're nearing the end here. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Um, just gonna go over a few settings. Location and frost date. I chose my location and frost date automatically, but if the weather station that it picks for you is not very accurate, yeah, yes, OCR recognition is you must be in the tech sphere too. That's exactly what it would be doing. The trick is Um, if it recognized the text on a seed packet, still like figuring out which text belongs to the variety name and which belongs to the seed company name, and um, figuring out the differences between them is the tricky technical part for me. Um, yeah. All right, going back to the settings. Um, if you want to change your frost date manually, you can always tap the button next to it and select a new date. Um, oh, that's way too early, but you know what I mean. Um, if you're in Europe and you don't want to use freedom units, you can use metric units. Um, you can change the system theme. So we do have a dark mode uh, and a light mode and all that. And there's our social media. Definitely follow us. We are very active on social. We have a social media manager that's he's Mylan. He's on our latest episode of the new Planter podcast. And we put out some good stuff on social, including a lot of tips and tricks uh, and plant information. Um, and then here, if you have any features, if you did not have time to join the live stream, um, you can request a new feature with the feature request tool. And uh, here we've got a few features that you can see. Harvest time. I did complete that recently. Ability to add seed packets, scan them. That's exactly what we were just talking about. Planting notifications. Um, one thing that we are actively working on, I don't know why it's not showing up here. Ability to add photos to notes. That is coming real soon. Keep an eye out for that. I'm very excited about that. Um, our our software developer intern, Connor, has been working very hard on that all summer. Um, and we're almost ready to launch it. So, um, yeah, I'm trying to think of other things that might be useful, but that's about it. So I'm gonna wrap up the live stream right now. Thank you for watching, and uh, keep growing. All right, let me play the outro slide. Bye.